Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jim Chabin, President, Advanced Imaging Society.
Good morning, everybody. 9 o'clock in the morning. This is pretty good. Thank you all for being up. Dave Ward, come up and join me, our host here at Cisco. None of this would have happened without Dave and his team, so thank you, Dave, very much.
Let's move up onto the stage.
All right, okay.
Get in the spotlight, Jim. Here you go.
There we go. This is an organizational effort made by Cisco and Gary Dell, our friends at Dell, and people in this community here, and the Hollywood community, because the realization is that technology empowers artists, and artists empower technology. And for the longest time, the technology community has existed in Silicon Valley, and a creative community has existed in Hollywood, and those cultures have not had a chance to get to know each other quite as well. So this effort was started to do that.
And that's how we got together.
Yeah.
We met each other when we were working on media and said, we have these two great industries in California. Why aren't we mingling them more and allowing great things to happen?
Right. We were having a board meeting, and I was talking about some of the events we were doing in Los Angeles, and Dave said, you know, Jim, there's a place called Northern California. Hanno Bassi is our chairman is Wim Bayens of Barco, and he is based in Brussels. He said everywhere he goes in the world, in Africa, in South America, wherever he goes, there are only two communities in the world that virtually everybody understands. One is the word Hollywood, and the other is the word Silicon Valley. And so if you can combine those two creative and intelligence communities, wow, what a power you've got. So that's why we're here.
Thanks, Jim. And we're great to be hosting folks here at Cisco. Want to give a bit of orientation to the Southern California folks. You can't see the Golden Gate from here. We're at the South Bay. San Francisco is that way. Beach is that way. But it's great to be here, and welcome to the land of the super geeks. We wanted to treat with you a bit of Northern California music as you came in this morning, and so just want to really host you as well as we can here, because as Silicon Valley's really deep engineering culture, and we have our own form of artistry in building what we build up here, we really want to enable Hollywood to be able to take advantage of that technology and really tell stories very differently and create entertainment and immersive entertainment as in all new directions. And we have our role in the industry, and you have your role in the industry, but those two groups have to get together.
I want to acknowledge that we are talking about Northern and Southern California, but we have professors here from the Indiana University. We've got colleagues here from Washington, D.C., and one of our colleagues flew here from India because he wanted to be here to hear this. So I want to thank the people who traveled so far to join us.
Yeah, very much so.
And so I think we should bring our first speaker on.
Yeah, let the show begin. Although, Jim, we could continue talking up here for quite a bit. We both have the ability to do that.
I can read the audience's mind. I think let's get started. Our first speaker is one of the most sought-after speakers there are, and so we are lucky to be getting him. He serves as a futurist and the senior strategist for Salesforce. So here to kick off the day, please welcome Jonathan Miranda. Jonathan?
Thanks. Good morning. All right, so to kick this off, my name is Jonathan Miranda. I'm the Director of Strategy at Salesforce. It's my job to think about the future, because we have a lot of customers coming to us to kind of figure out what's going to go on in the next 3 to 5 years, so not in the sci-fi range. And I also work for Peter Schwartz, who is our Chief Future Officer, which he calls the fun CFO. And what we get to talk about with customers is what I'm going to share with you in the next couple of minutes. And one of the biggest things to kind of kick this thing off, I want to explain this a little bit in depth, is there's a lot going on with AI right now, right? This is, probably heard the World Economic Forum talk about is the fourth industrial revolution, right? There's a big moment of change. This is as drastic as you can think of what happened to your cell phone when we started doing social media, what happened to the internet in our computers, right? There's a lot of multiplication effects of all these things coming together, and that's kind of why AI is really taking off at this moment. But the important thing to know is that AI is not necessarily a new thing too, right? It actually started, it's a little bit off in this graph, it actually started back in the 70s when we thought we understand the human brain, and we're gonna map that to silicon. But the reason why it's taking off right now is really this kind of new point of all these inflections coming together for machine intelligence. You're going to hear about this a lot. The easiest way I always explain it to customers, machine intelligence is like if I gave you 5,000 pictures of a cat and then I gave you another picture, you can tell me if it's a cat or not, right? That's machine intelligence. It's a whole lot of data, it's an evolutionary learning model, and it's putting it together to answer a simple question and do a simple task. It is not going to be the Terminator that comes and takes away your job. You don't have to figure out, what we're going to be doing for a living in the next couple of years. We're a long ways away from that world of a general or a human AI, right? We're actually doing a project with DARPA to kind of help them map out a cubic millimeter of the human brain. And it's going to take 17 years as a project with over 700 researchers on it. We're still a very far distance away from even understanding what's going to happen with the human brain and what that means for general human intelligence. So whenever you hear about AI in the news today, or you hear about companies talking about it on every single quarterly call, it's all about weak and narrow AI. Right, these are simple little questions being answered, simple tasks being taken away, but it's those little things that are really powerful that are adding up, and that's machine intelligence. So there's a lot going on in the industry with that little bit of technology, right? One of the biggest ones everybody knows about is the recommendations and the suggestions that come out of things like Amazon and Netflix. But a lot of people actually don't know is that they've gone through a fairly fundamental change in the last year. These started off as predictive systems, right? They knew that you were going to go home and you were going to binge watch that next episode of Stranger Things. But that's not as valuable for Netflix. So they're now using prescriptive AI, right? They're using up to 300,000 versions of the user interface, and they're determining what to show you based off the context of what time of day it is, what's the device, do they think there's multiple people in the room or not? Do they know what your history is of genres or actors or directors? Like, what are you looking to and what are you paying attention to? The same thing is on with Amazon, right? So if you go to Amazon and you see customers like you bought this item, it's actually a lie at this point. It's actually underneath the hood. It's actually the thing that's going to get you to click on, to shop more, to spend more time in the site because they want you to become a better customer. So they're moving away from this idea of being predictive with AI and actually driving you to the outcome that they want. Another area that has been starting to take off a little bit in the industry is what Fox has been doing with like the Morgan trailer, or ABC Studios has been doing with trailers, and this is with IBM Watson, just make it a little bit more sensible for a creative to try to make a trailer. This was actually a trailer that was put together by an AI watching the entire film, and then it pulls out 5 minutes worth of content to put in front of the creative. And then they can sit down and pick out what they actually want to put together for the trailer. Right, you can imagine as you're trying to create a trailer for like Breaking Bad and you have hundreds of episodes to kind of catch up to go through, like that's not a normal process for a human being to do, but an AI can do it really quickly and pull out what's the important piece. But it's still the human being at the end. And you're going to hear, after this later on today, what's going on in Disney research around how they can do things like using AI to help rendering, right? So instead of doing the typical model of just kind of brute forcing it, they're using AI to denoise images. And this last one is a phenomenal technology. This is what Google's been doing actually with using AI to alter sound. And you can think about this is going to be huge in the media industry. But what this is able to do is they can actually take a sound stream and they can remove people that are behind you in a hangout that are kind of not the main people of the conversation. Or there's this new thing they have in the earbuds where we can go to a busy restaurant here in Silicon Valley and you can pull out your app and you can say, remove the restaurant, remove the people talking behind me, and turn up human speech. Like you can alter things with those new earbuds using AI. And it's not going to be a fad in the next couple of years when we all start using these things because it's vastly helping you how you interact and understand other people. And AI is kind of going through a wave of change. There's a great video out there from DARPA that talks about this. And the easiest way to kind of explain this is, again, we started off with just putting the intelligence of the programmer into the programs just like TurboTax does. But then we got into machine intelligence, right? That's where we're at. We're at that second wave right now, which is statistical learning using vast amounts of information. But we're getting really close to this third wave. And this third wave of AI is using context to actually change what an AI makes a decision for. This is really what you need for self-driving cars, right? You don't want to identify that the cyclist is there. You want to know that I'm coming up to an intersection and that person might make a change. So I need to know the context of the situation. Or if I send you a picture of a cat, it can do all the things that a human being can do really quickly and say, it's white, it's fluffy, it's my neighbor's, it's small, it's cute, all the things that a human being can do really quickly. Those are the things that can understand the context of the situation, not just the identification of it. There's actually a really cool project that they're finishing up called the Yoga Bot. And what this is it's a little Roomba type vacuuming device that his job is to get you to do yoga once a week. And DARPA spent a lot of money trying to figure out how to actually get an AI to get you to do that. Because you can imagine, like if it's me and it comes up to me, I'm just going to kick this thing away and say, no, it's not time to do yoga right now. But they're going to use AI to actually alter how it actually words it. They're going to change it from a human voice to a female voice. They're going to change it so it's going from guilty to fun to sarcastic. It's going to use all the different things that'll get you to actually make the change so you can have a healthier lifestyle. Right? That's contextual AI. And that's really what will allow us to have full conversations with AI and even more. But in a lot of this, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing when you're doing this with AI. So there's a lot of, all the companies around here in Silicon Valley have all kind of merged together for things like, I still think it's the cheesiest name, the Algorithmic Justice League, where companies come together to share openly about white papers and talk about what they're working on. This is also other things like the Open Partnership on AI, and you've seen things like Google come out with their AI ethics right now, and other ethics councils that are being created at Microsoft and Salesforce and Google and the rest. It's all this kind of initiative to make sure we do this the right way, because you can do a lot of different in a bad way with this technology. So you want to make sure you're doing it openly and public and transparent. So one of the things, too, I want to talk about is that in the next couple of years, you're going to start seeing these devices a whole lot more. You're going to hear a lot about the devices today, but it takes a little bit of time to kind of come out in a bigger, broader way. The reason for that is the same thing we talk about with customers about what happened to this device. Right? This thing started off the size of a suitcase. It was for the military. It was for the rich. It was for early adopters. And it took a long time before it went out en masse. And we're just kind of starting hitting that curve in augmented reality and virtual reality. Right? That middle shot is from the Oculus Go, which has already sold out the first 2 rounds because of the interest there. And there's a lot more tools that are going to start playing out. Even augmented reality, you're going to hear about it a lot throughout this conference today, but you can understand that we're still getting to the point where we're getting production models out that businesses can actually connect to. But that's what they're working on right now. It's going to take a little bit. The last one, too, I always love talking about because it blows my mind what they're up to in this area. I've been able to work with groups like Kaiser and United Healthcare and all these giants that are working on the future of healthcare. And in devices, everybody used to have the Fitbits, and it was all about competition of how many steps you were doing. But the new version of these are pretty powerful. These things can do everything using AI to detect you're going to have a heart attack before you know it and schedule for the paramedic to come pick you up. To the new thing, which is just finishing out in pilot of research, is ingestible sensors. So they can actually have you eat an apple peel, and it stays inside your body for 36 hours, connects to your cell phone, and shoots off to a dashboard to your doctor. So if you go into the hospital for a flu, you're not there for 2 days in a very expensive bed in a very expensive room. They actually send you home, and they'll just monitor you from home because they don't need to keep track of you in the office. Those are going to be a way of life, that we're going to do things a little bit differently to say we want to be healthier and be a little bit more proactive. And that's probably going to start showing up in mass in the next couple of years. And we're also going to see new ways of engaging these immersive experiences. This is a shot from VRLA, a big conference in Los Angeles, where they tried to show the future of gaming. And this was untethered, 8 players having first-person shooter battles in a very immersive environment. But there's also a lot of other things coming in play here. One of the more interesting ones, too, we got to experience in New York was the Black Gym, which is the virtual reality gym. Because I don't know about you, the gym's a fairly boring environment, and they've completely changed that. They've made this so it's an interactive environment where you're competing against the people you're playing with, or you're running away from zombies in The Walking Dead with your friends on a treadmill. Like, there's all kinds of things that make this a much more fun and interactive experience. And the younger generations, the Gen Zs, the millennials, they want to have those fun, immersive social experiences, and they want to live healthy. So that'll be a big drive of getting these out there in adoption, when people understand the actual value of it is the entertainment to get you to be healthy, right? Which is a little bit different. And there's also other companies that are working on all the different experiences you're going to hear about today. You're also going to hear a little bit about how VR and AR are actually starting to make their way into companies in big scale. For example, this top right shot is from Stryver. It's a company that's working on enablement with virtual reality, and they have done this where they're now in a big place with Walmart universities. So if you're a new Walmart employee and you're about to walk into Black Friday, that can be a shocking experience for a lot of people. This is how you can experience it ahead of time. This is how you can understand how to work under the stress of hundreds of people around you. They tirelessly had cameras out at all the Black Friday major spots for Walmart, and they used virtual reality cameras to now train all the staff that walk into there knowing how to handle it. This other one too, Dreamscape, is another big one. It's doing all the stuff that you can imagine with, Disney and Warner Brothers and Fox and Sony and IMAX and AMC and all the giants that want to get you out of the house. Right? There's a problem right now where a lot of people aren't going to the movie theaters, and they need to figure out how to change that because you can sit home and watch Netflix and go buy a movie on Google Play, but they need to get you into that more immersive environment, and they're going to up-level everything. So it's not going to be sitting in a theater. It's going to be changing that to make this a more interactive experience. And a lot of companies are working on this, and again, it just takes time. A lot of people don't know it takes 3 years a lot of times for these major initiatives to kind of get finished. So when the virtual reality headsets started coming along, we're just at the cusp. They're all starting to come out from the AAA big groups. And a story I always love talking about is to show something that's personal to me, but also just shows you an example of something that's possible now that was never possible before. I have 2 boys that are 7 and 9, and they're both autistic and on the spectrum, and we're part of an initiative at Stanford called Autism Glass. And what this is my boys wear Google Glass to school. And what it does is it has a camera that's on at all times. And what it does is if they look at anybody, it will immediately identify the person and say their name, and then it will also say the emotion that person's experiencing. It's phenomenal. I cannot explain how monumental this has been in my life, going from hundreds and thousands of hours of really expensive therapists to immediately my son can look over and see the kid that just fell on the playground. Is he happy or is he in pain? They are able to connect with their group so much more, and there's a better understanding of what their issues are and how they can have a conversation with their other kids. This is not a futuristic technology. This is available today. You can actually go to Stanford's autismglass.stanford.edu, and you can sign up, and they'll send you one for like $100 just to give it to you to try out. And this is, again, play this through the next couple of years. This will be, the kind of experience when you check in with your family at Disney and you walk into the hotel, they're going to automatically know that your kids are having a hard time, or if you're exhausted, or if your flight was delayed, they're going to know how to connect to you in a whole better way. Or for people like us, right? Like I'm in conferences all the time. I'm talking with customers all the time. I am terrible at names and faces. So if I see you again, I'm sorry. But if I had a pair of glasses that said the job title and the name, and I met them last week, I would pay thousands of dollars for those headsets. And those are gonna start coming out in the next 2 years. And it's just gonna help you get over the awkwardness and understanding how to connect other people better. And just lastly on this space too, one of the big drives for the immersive technology is really the gaming industry. The gaming industry is kind of taking off. The esports world, it took a little bit of the world by surprise. A lot of people made fun of Amazon for a while they paid $1 billion for Twitch, and now it's looking like the Disney deal of buying LucasArts. It was a good money grab. And the reason why is because millennials and Gen Zs, again, they are a big component of this, and they also want to go for these big experiences. Stadiums are filling out with these gamers. More money is made in this area than most of the entertainment industry for movies. There's a lot of stuff going on here. But again, this is also a new opportunity for taking those movies and entertainment experiences into the media world. One of the big successes right now is Fortnite, and there was a whole big thing with the Avengers movie, making characters and putting it into the game. And it created even more buzz around the movie and created more buzz with the gamers. So again, just thinking it's another thing to keep an eye on when we're looking at all these technologies, how will that play in that part of my industry? They also asked me to quickly kind of go through a little bit of blockchain. If I could explain this easily enough, the easiest thing to explain with blockchain is it's a distributed ledger, right? It's almost taking the idea of a distributed database or a ledger and spreading it out. But the problem with this, when every single customer asks about this, and I have all these conversations with CEOs about this is what they think, is they think about cryptocurrencies, and they're asking me about what's going on with Bitcoin or with Coinbase, and is it going to be regulated? That is just, it is one piece of the blockchain technology. It is an incredibly powerful technology, and yes, it did enable these things with these cryptocurrencies, but it is not the only thing. And specifically in the entertainment industry, there's kind of 2 big initiatives going on right here that are really important. The first one is really Hyperledger and all the initiative work that's being done over there. What this is really, it's kind of taking what was originally blockchain and leveling this up to the point where it can be used within business, right? Think of the product cycle of all the different stuff, like I said, the cell phones and your virtual reality headsets. Blockchain needed to mature. And this allows you to do things like having private blockchains, up-leveling the security to fight against quantum computing. It's allowing you to have distributed ledgers, across companies that are only allowed to see it. It allows you to do things at scale. A lot of people don't know if you buy something on Bitcoin right now, it takes a couple of minutes to verify, and the price could have dropped 20% by the time you bought your Starbucks coffee. So this allows you to give a little bit of stability. It's used primarily in things like supply chain for companies, but we're seeing this specifically in the entertainment world in contracting. In the contracting world, I've met with most of the CTOs of most of the media companies. That is a lot of their nightmares, and what keeps them up at night is that whole mess, because that's not a system that they control. It's spread across a bunch of different distributors and different languages. They need to handle all the regulation and rules across multiple regions. This kind of allows you to have that distributed technology that connects them in a way that they can actually have a conversation. And then this last one is an interesting thing of just showing you what's going on in the gaming industry, but this will definitely play in the media world, is what Referium is up to. And the easiest way to explain this is a crypto technology built upon blockchain, which allows you to basically pay people to be advertised to. Because you can imagine there's hundreds of millions of dollars spent, when Avengers come out, a lot of people don't know how much money is actually spent like broadcasting that movie to the world. It's a little bit different now in gaming, right? In gaming, people want to actually see the people play the game. They want to see it ahead of time. They want to see what their friends are up to. The social impacts there are so much higher. So what Referium does, instead of saying $100 million, I'm going to broadcast the new Batman game and put it on the side of a billboard that a millennial may not even look up at, now I'm going to actually find out a way to, at scale, pay them for watching. And it actually gives them money to do it. So it's the reverse. So instead of you paying an advertiser and the money never goes to the customer, you're paying the customer for spending time. And how it's done, you can imagine, like if I'm the hottest guy on Twitch and I start streaming a game, I actually mine, just like Bitcoin, I mine Referium based on how many people are watching me for how long. And then I get paid for my influence on the industry. And then if you're an individual person, you're paid for your time, for how much you watch. There's a lot of movement here in the media world and entertainment world. A great example of this would think about the Amazon affiliate program with what they're doing with Amazon, media, right? You can imagine if I told you, hey, the greatest new thing to watch on Amazon is the Marvelous Miss Maisel television show, and I'm gonna post a link on my social media, and you click that and you watch for 8 hours, I should be paid because I drove a lot of people to that actual action of spending a lot of time. That's the way they're going to do it. They're going to do it with blockchain, and they're going to do it by connecting people to say how much influence you actually have is the power of marketing, not just the eyeball, shotgunning the world with it. Another thing too to cover is I want to go over just kind of quickly the personal data economy, because I think it's important in every single industry, but for your guys' too, it's important. And this is really, it's a newer economy. So you've heard of like the crowd economies, the sharing economies, the algorithm economy, all the stuff that, of Airbnb and Uber and everything else. But there's a time where we now have a whole lot of information about a lot of people, and it's not being used at the benefit of the people a lot of times, right? This is why you're seeing a lot of different social media companies in the news, is because there's a whole lot of information out there, and we need to know that it's actually not at the value of the individual. So the companies that do this, that actually say, you give me information and I provide you a service, those are the companies that are going to do really well in this next stage. A great example of this is a company called Nexar. And what they do is they provide you a dash cam service. You take your cell phone and you put it at the front of your car and it gives you a dash cam, right? Which is valuable. It's an Israeli startup. But what it's valuable in is the sense that, yes, I get all this stuff. If I get in an accident, I get recording. There's some neat stuff where they can do object detection or collision detection. If you're about to hit another car, they can tell you to stop. But the other thing is that they have the most accurate mapping data of the entire regions that they're in, better than any Google car that drives across every month. So they're getting the value, right? They have a whole new mapping set of data and driving history and traffic and all that kind of stuff they can provide live, whereas the other ones don't. And the benefit you get is you have more security in what you're going to be doing. And this is what MoviePass and now AMC jumping into the mix are all trying to do with getting you to go to the movies, right? They know that it's expensive to go to the movies, so they want you to go there because you're going to buy the popcorn, and also you're going to give money to the movie studio, or you're going to give data to the movie studios that have always been doing this for research and spending a whole lot of money in this area, and they've never had a connection to the customer. this will allow them to do it. So the business model will fluctuate. They're going to learn this a little bit. It's done really well with like Cinemark and other groups in London already. But it'll take off again, where it's again explaining very transparently. You share this information with me, you give it to me, I provide you this benefit. So to end this, I want to just two little funny notes. One, again, I work for Peter Schwartz. He's our Chief Future Officer, and he helped write movies like Minority Report and War Games and Sneakers and a lot of the futuristic views. And when he wrote Minority Report, they were aiming for 2050. But I don't know about you, it's pretty close to right now, right? We're really close to it. It's actually more like 2020 for what they were aiming for. And when we get asked all the time, like, what is our view of the future? A lot of us point to the movie Her, because that's probably close to where we're at in the next couple of years, where AI assistants are actually going to be the more personalized effect, right? You're going to have a digital assistant that helps schedule, helps manage your time, sends you right to the, gets you prepped in the meeting you're about to walk into, all that kind of stuff. So last thing, just want to guard you against what you're going to see in the news, the media. You're going to hear from everywhere. This is why, Mad Max and Black Mirror and Westworld and Terminator and all these movies are really popular, is because companies like this and everybody is talking about how AI is going to destroy the future. We need to figure out what we're going to do. There's no more service and office jobs. But again, I work for Peter, and he's actually the oldest person. He's 72 years old at Salesforce, in charge of the future of the company, and he says this is not a new story. This quote's actually from 1961, when there were still Russians in the news. And it happens time and time again. With every technology wave, we're more easily aligned negatively to the future instead of thinking about what's new and possible. So thanks, and hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day.